So out the window, Jake hears a female call of distress, so he goes outside to investigate. It didn't take him long to get down the stairs. A group of students was sitting in the lobby talking about something. He heard the words microaggression and privilege and cisnormative. Wow, all three of those words just in that short time he was passing. That must have been a very concise conversation. So what appears to have just happened is that Jake had a horrible flashback to some very violent and disturbing memories, which caused him lingering trauma from his time in the war because of a thing that was happening currently, which reminded him too strongly of it. And I feel like there's a word for that. He heard a stun gun fire, felt the fierce jab as the first set of needles pierced his shirt and lanced into his flesh to deliver their jolt of electricity. Good writing. He was a big old man, although not as big as Jake's 6'4" and 250 pounds. I'm so glad we get a running update on the relative bigness of these characters. Jake couldn't help himself. He said, "Dr. Matumbo?" The man sniffed. "I identify as African American. My ancestors were colonialists named Montombo who lived for a time in French Equatorial Africa before immigrating to this country. I simply adopted a more appropriate spelling to honor the unfortunate people they oppressed and exploited." How does that track? Okay, so two things. First, why did Jake not look up the requirements for every student before deciding to go to this college? And second, I would like to point out that this scene is a good illustration of my general beef with this book not having people behave like people. So if we can rewind for a second to the beginning of this scene, Jake walked into this professor's office in office hours and said, "Dr. Matumbo?" And for some reason the professor responded by being like, "Yes, my name is Dr. Matumbo, and here's why. Let me tell you this extended personal backstory." And in fact, for any normal human being, if someone walks into your office during office hours and says your name in a questioning tone, like Dr. Matumbo, you would then go, "Yes. Oh, please have a seat. You're just in time for office hours." You wouldn't assume that they were asking you why your name is your name. A muffled voice, disguised even more by whispering, said, "Shut up," which is not very intimidating. "Tell me about your parents and your brothers and sisters," Natalie asks, which is about the most inhuman way you can phrase that question. It was a good kiss, with just enough heat and urgency that they both tightened the embrace, but with the natural restraint of a first kiss. It definitely held the potential for more, Jake thought. It was a good assessment of a kiss. "Everyone do as you're told," he shouted, loud enough for his voice to carry across the entire lower floor. "Otherwise, we're all going to die." What the "we" was a strange choice, but he got caught up in the moment, and, you know, sometimes you trip over your words. Pierce Connors bolted to his feet when he heard the shots. Farid was on his feet too, looking around frantically like Pierce was. In the past, he had talked about how he wished he could strike back at the great Satan, America, for the glory of Islam and the Prophet, but right now he just looked scared. I'm sorry, what? The gunman was white, fairly young, and average looking. Nothing about him shouted mass shooter. Actually, no, I think he pretty much just described a lot of mass shooters. I can't even begin to break down this thought process. I would imagine that no matter what life-threatening situation I found myself in, I wouldn't suddenly start to think, gosh, I would even accept the help of the Zodiac Killer right now. Why did I always hate the Zodiac Killer? You know, I always had really unkind thoughts about the Zodiac Killer, but if they could somehow magically appear right here and now and decide to save me from the bad thing that was happening, well then I would just feel like an idiot for not liking them. Farid then tries to join the gunman. Pierce gets mad at Farid, which for some reason causes the whole study group to turn against Pierce. Yeah, Matumbo returns. So Matumbo is still crawling through the ceiling when he sneezes. He started crawling forward along the plank again, when, without warning, he sneezed. The dust he'd inhaled a few minutes earlier had caused that reaction, he knew, but knowing the cause didn't make things any better. His nose, which was on the prominent side, made sure that the noise it produced was loud and resonant. What kind of sentence was that? Jake saves them, nothing much of note happens, except that Professor Mutombo says, "That madman is going to blow us all to kingdom come." You know, like people say. Oh, and McRaney from outside meets a new character who is named Dog. And he's like a cool, extreme, mysterious super soldier. And his like catchphrase is, "Just dog." And every time a character interacts with him, they go, "Just dog?" And he goes, "Just dog." Forget about blowing anything up. Put that detonator aside, step out and face me. Just the two of us. Foster laughed. Head to head, mano a mano, just like the showdown in every bad book ever written. Oh, this is getting meta. Do I get a code name? Barry squinted over at him and said, "You're as big as a horse." How about horse? Please. No, Jake said, shaking his head. Not horse. That's not a good code name. He thought about it. Now stallion, maybe. I don't think so. Barry clapped a hand on his nephew's shoulder as they walked off into the pleasant autumn afternoon. We'll work on it. And Finn! I can't wait to read the further adventures of Dog and Horse. That was the status quo for a good few years. Someone would go back there, they'd get a lot of cool pictures of the old attractions, they would snap some selfie footage to incriminate themselves.
Hey, what up? It's your boy, just hanging out somewhere I'm not supposed to be. If you're a cop, like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.
Just when things were looking up for old Buzzy, in December of 2018, the news drops on Twitter that Buzzy is gone. And not just gone. Buzzy is stolen. Where is our boy? One account says that he was carved out of his perch while his hydraulic lines were still active, spraying hydraulic fluid all over the crime scene like fresh blood. It was very upsetting, okay? On Amazon, people love to take a copyrighted image, print it on the cover of a book, leave the interior of the book completely blank, and sell it as a journal. That's illegal. The book begins with a graphic sex scene. Wow, that's just like Star Wars 2. I mean, I don't think I can even read, like, certainly not the first sentence, or like much of this chapter without getting demonetized. So I'm gonna hope that it's not super important to the story. You probably won't believe this either, he says, but the seer told me we were going to be friends. Good friends. What? You mean like in some kind of redemption arc? So they don't have visions, but they can see Jas, but they can't see him clearly because Reza is a lens, which sometimes distorts things, but most of the time can't be seen through at all. As well as 4 different metaphors across 2 pages. The rules of this universe are completely lost on me. The seers can see the future, except when they can't. And sometimes their view is clear, but other times they're wrong, and Jas is a fish and Reza is a lens, or she is a storm in the ocean, or sand, which you can see the bottom through, and the bottom of the ocean is destiny, but Reza is also a moon, and Jas is also a moon. He's a darker, scarier moon, and Reza is a good moon. And you don't eclipse shadow. That's not a thing, is it? That's not how an eclipse works. And if 2 moons are rising, it's not a question of which one rises, it's which one is in front, right? Itself into knots inside me, like a pit of snakes right now. Snakes! Snakes are canon! Hold on a second. Snakes! Snakes confirmed. I just truly feel at this point like snakes are the only constant in my life, and I have to celebrate the little things. Jas will become unstoppable force of evil in the galaxy. Another typo. Jas will rise to power and madness. He won't let them kill me. He'll harness the energy inside me and use it to control me. I'll be his slave, doomed to carry out his bidding, trapped inside my own body, unable to prevent the death that will befall so many worlds. I will kill over and over again, and I'll be unable to look away. Okay, where is she getting any of this? Like, literally all of that was news to me. I did not know that harnessing her energy was within his power, or... It comes back to me slowly. All of the times I've met with him like this before. So many times. He's kissed me. He's held me. Oh, okay. I have to say, every time something sexually explicit happens, or the characters even cuss, I feel newly surprised, because otherwise this book puts out such strong YA novel energy. Listening to the dreams of the people sleeping close by, marveling at how obliviously they traipse through the experience, barely even participating in the journey their subconscious takes them on. Things could be so different for them. Revenge could be won. Success could be achieved. Anger could be assuaged. Sexual desires could be fulfilled. And yet none of these people are aware that they can take the reins and control their nighttime misadventures. Jas is just every dude on Reddit who wants to brag about how he lucid dreamed one time. An assassin stabbed Erica literally 6 days before she had foreseen her own death anyway. And while she was bleeding out, she had time to sit down and pen multiple letters. Not one, but 2 letters. And the assassin, I guess, just didn't stab her again. He just stabbed her once and then left without checking to make sure she was going to die. And she did not bother to include in either of those letters the identity of her attacker. And for that matter, if she knew she was going to die in 6 days, shouldn't she have just already written the letters? He stands there wearing a pair of those loose black pants and nothing else. His chest is bare, his feet are bare, his hair is rumpled, curling everywhere in a shock of dark waves that frame his face in the most fascinating, distracting way. He towers over me. The soft, subdued light pours over Jas's shoulders and down his right arm like honey, turning his pale skin to gold. I don't look at his chest. I don't look at the beautifully carved muscle or the defined lines that mark out each of his abs. You came half naked on purpose. Regis is going to be overjoyed when he realizes he has 2 runaways to play with. Stryker grunts. Should I reread that as like, I don't know. But he only does that because he's been brainwashed since he was a kid, and Reza was subjected to the same brainwashing, so you'd think she'd be sympathetic. And, by the way, she broke out of the brainwashing because of puberty, which I guess Jas never went through. All things considered, he did okay for himself. If he isn't, this video will age very poorly and be embarrassing for me. Does this not make noise? I thought they always made noise. What? What? I'm never using one of these again. He doesn't even have the yellow Sith eyes, and his face scar is like specifically arranged to only make him look cooler. We are consistently getting shampoo commercial Kylo Ren, and they are like taking his shirt off, they're rubbing oil on his chest. Snoke and Palpatine didn't get this treatment, although I wish they had. Han's final act was literally lovingly caressing his face, and that was after he got stabbed. I'm imagining Force Ghost Luke finding him in the afterlife like, well, the good news is we did murder your evil son. That was your dying wish, right? Truth be told, I still can't always understand what Chewbacca said. You get where I'm going with this? I'm saying that there's gonna be redemption arc. Walt came home and built his own extensive model train set in the backyard. This one was 1/8 scale, which, hey, that's pretty big. He named the train the Lily Bell after his wife Lillian, because Lillian was less than pleased about the train. I don't know if this helped.
Tortoises! A buzzard! Show me the snakes! Show me the snakes!
So what about those other critters? Well, the critters of nature's wonderland had deteriorated from age and from years of sitting outside, some of them in water, and with no immediate plans to move them anywhere, they would have taken up a lot of storage space. So legend has it that in kind of a 2 birds, 1 stone solution, they decided to just throw all of the unwanted critters into a giant pit in the living desert, pour a bunch of concrete over the whole thing, and never speak of it again. So guests would unknowingly be walking over the mass, unmarked grave of countless mechanical bears. At the petting farm, you could meet goats, donkeys, cows, turkeys, the giant horses that work on Main Street, and Jenny.
Hi, Jenny. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yes, I worked at the petting farm. I loved the petting farm. So they actually carved a large concave area back into the earth and put everything lower than its surroundings. I wonder if they dug deep enough to strike pay dirt and accidentally unearth a lot of animatronic bear and elk skeletons. That would be a fun day on the construction site. It's currently occupied by the First Order, but the Resistance has also set up a base in the very same outpost. That last part is kind of funny because of the proximity of the 2 organizations. So you have Kylo Ren's big ship and periodically he will stomp out of it and he's like, "Where's the resistance?" And Ray is straight up doing photo op meet and greets like a block away. Traditional media always gets previews of Disney events, but so do bloggers. They get to go and get footage of everything and not deal with horrible crowds. This was obviously my first choice, and I thought I stood a pretty good chance. I wouldn't rank myself in the upper echelons of YouTubers, but theme park YouTubers, that's a much smaller pond. They have relatively lower numbers, so I'm not a big fish in the ocean, but I am a sizable koi in this pond. A couple of theme park YouTubers were nice enough to pass along the email contact for Disney's social media coordinator, so I decided to reach out. Ghosted! No response whatsoever. That's embarrassing. Let's never talk about that again. I'm a small little fish. Stop kicking me while I'm down. My room at the Disneyland Hotel after tax totaled $761.67. So I would just like to thank my Patreon friends because oh my god. And yes, you still have to pay $25 to park when you have a room at the hotel. I am a small fish being kicked while I'm down. So that brings our grand total for one guaranteed visit to Star Wars Land up to $935.67. That's expensive. So you keep pushing and you keep moving and you don't even realize you feel like you're dying inside until it's 5:30 p.m. and you're standing in the middle of Pizza Port having a family meltdown because your son Brayden only eats chicken tenders and you don't want to go all the way back to Frontierland. He's crying, you're crying, your spouse is crying, and suddenly your marriage is falling apart. Maybe somebody caught cat flu. It's not a good time. Yeah, an efficient walkway is great, but you can't live your life in efficient walkways. Imagine existing in a place where every square foot of land is an efficient walkway. You can't stop moving or you're in somebody's way. You're constantly being jostled. And if you try to step to the side and lean against a wall, an employee in a vest urges you to keep moving. That place actually exists. It's called San Diego Comic-Con, and it's a nightmare. Never go there. One of my favorite pastimes is to go on Amazon or other online shopping retailers and look up spiders and just read the reviews people have left for spiders. God, the amount of lore that Tom Chambers gives us. My wife bought this as a prank. She put it in the bathtub with the shower curtain drawn. The spider is a little less than a foot long. She thought it would be funny because I'd found some Eastern Parson spiders and I couldn't stop talking about them. It is unusual to find a cluster of spiders, especially during the day. I wasn't scared when I opened the shower curtain. This spider is too big to be scary. The eyes are like very tiny Christmas ornaments. Gloria has scared me in the past. I thought I had the house to myself one night when she was at an open mic. My workshop was in the basement and I'd planned to do some sketches for the solar panel racks I was building. When I opened the door to the basement, I turned on the light and Gloria was standing at the bottom of the stairs. She'd been standing in the dark and practicing the poem she was going to read. The poem was called Babies. 3 stars for the spider. This is some kind of like spider with a clown face instead of a spider face. Just okay. I love imagining getting this product and being like, it's just okay. Love the shake, not a fan of the sounds, but she posted an image of it shaking and making it sound, but she has it posing with an orange vanilla Coke. Again, I assume for scale. It's just a weird sight. Don't worry. The box says this is the maximum size you can get for a fake spider. Oh, thank God. A good friend. My child doesn't have friends, so I bought him this spider. He really likes it. It's large and fuzzy, just as advertised. He uses it to scare his mother by hiding it in her bed or sneaking up behind her and brushing her with its fuzzy legs. The only drawback is the construction is not super robust. So if it breaks, then my child will be friendless again. The worst thing I've ever read. And finally, we can start uniting all these elements like we want to do. Anna is like, Elsa, do not use your ice powers on this lizard. It's the best line in the script. She's also like, Elsa, I think your new friend, Villainous, is hiding something. R2 and BB-8 beep energetically. The others listen. Beep, 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 beep. I'm just going to imagine that this goes on for 5 uninterrupted minutes. Chewie and Poe take R2 and BB-8 to try and recruit new fighters to the cause. Poe really drew the short straw on this one, didn't he? Good luck recruiting a whole army for the losing side, buddy. Oh, take this big hairy monster that nobody understands and the 2 of our 3 droids that don't speak English. The doors close behind him, and from a small door near the back enters Supreme Leader Snoke. Ren is stunned. Snoke approaches, grinning mirthlessly. Ren says, "Impossible. You're dead." Snoke says, "Killed me? Yes, you did. Want to kill me again?" Is the dialogue always like this? Because if so, honestly, I kind of do want to read his books now. How long was Snoke waiting behind his tiny door? And why did they clarify that it was tiny? In a world with a confirmed afterlife and ghosts, what are the spiritual implications of this kind of cloning? Does each Snoke possess its own soul capable of becoming its own ghost upon death, so that in the Force afterlife, there are just so many Snoke? Snoke is delighted. Let her come. His last concern will be eliminated, just as the Skywalker line has been terminated, which prompts Ren to ask why Snoke cares so much. If I was Kylo Ren, my second question would probably be, why do you care so much? My first question would probably be, hey, what did you say about eliminating the entire Skywalker line? Is that your goal? 'Cause I'm from that family. I thought you just wanted to kill Luke and the Jedi. You know I'm related to Luke, right? That I'm a Skywalker? Why do I still work for you again? A younger, muscular, and even handsome figure that we recognize as Snoke, bullying others, taking what he wants because he can, leaning toward the dark side. He is confronted by another, a hooded figure, who warns him that he is set on an untenable path. Snoke is not afraid. He feels he is more powerful with the Force than anyone. He and the hooded figure fight in a factory where Snoke is knocked into a vat of chemicals. And we finally see the determined yet sympathetic figure of his opponent, a young Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh my God, that's truly the best thing so far. I mean, not even that it's Obi-Wan. Don't you just hate when your nemesis is trying to turn you to the side of good in a chemical factory? Ain't that just the way? So he's mad at Kenobi, and he needs revenge on him. But Kenobi is already dead. And also, all of his surviving family, to our knowledge, they are also all dead. So then, Snoke needs revenge on Kenobi's apprentice, who also is dead. So Snoke needs revenge on all of Kenobi's apprentice's descendants, except Kylo. Kylo's cool, even though he tried to kill him twice. Oh, succeeded in killing him twice. That's fine. But Snoke does need revenge on Rey, the student of the descendant of the apprentice of the guy who disfigured Snoke's first body's face. He looks to his right. 2 more Snokes come through the rear door. Too many cooks, too many cooks, too many cooks, too many cooks. But the real battle is between him and Snoke, or rather, Snokes. Yeah, the real battle doesn't involve Kylo or Rey or any of her friends, the new young main characters of the series. The real fight is between this old guy, who was the lead 2 trilogies ago, and 3 clones of a different old guy, who we don't know that much about. This is what the fans want to see. Go stand over there, main characters of this trilogy. It's time for Luke to fight Snoke 3 times. With Luke and the Snoke clones occupied with one another, good band name, by the way. He stops breathing. No in-between existence this time. He whispers something, "Aunt Beru," and dies, eyes open, staring. Aunt Beru, not Obi-Wan, not Han, not anybody who's touched his life recently, not Darth Vader or Padme, or even Uncle Owen, for reasons unknown to us. I'm not going to question why Luke, the human man, is thinking in his dying moments about the woman who raised him, but as a storytelling beat, it is odd. It's just a little curious that across all these stories, she's literally never come up since the moment she was burned to death. And like he seemed to get over it really quickly and be off on his space adventures. She was just kind of a roadblock he had to get past. Clearly Foster loves C-3PO. He's had more dialogue than any other character. But in this whole movie, he's just kind of been sentimental C-3PO all the time. It's kind of repetitive and weird. Is the First Order/Empire really finished? C-3PO doesn't know, but he has seen a great deal, and if he has learned anything, it is that nothing is ever, really, completely for certain. Reaching up, He touches her exposed skull portion. No! Has anyone told her lately how really beautiful she is? No! You mean to tell me that when Palpatine needed to create a creature who could take over control of a government without anyone becoming suspicious, and then win over the trust and affection of a little boy, the best he could come up with was this? Hello, little boy. My name is Papa Snoke. Kylo Ren also didn't react in any way to Chewie exploding. Like, he seemed more intrigued that Rey had that power and not like, oh, hey, I've known that big furry monster since I was a baby. Like, he's a family friend that I presumably know quite well. I feel like if you're going to pull this kind of contrived switcheroo, you need to have some kind of scene to set it up ahead of time. Like, maybe when our heroes are on Pisana and there's that festival, they could have a street vendor who's set up a table and he's doing the shell game. And then Finn tries to play it like a bunch of times in a row and he just keeps losing. And you're like, wow, Finn is really bad at object permanence. Even the reveal that Chewie is alive is very bizarre. It's a scene on the First Order ship and two officers are saying like, we had a lot of casualties, presumably because Rey exploded them, but we do have one valuable captive. And then Chewie walks in looking glum and wearing handcuffs and a collar. But because Chewie is alive and we're meant to feel happy about that, they have this like very triumphant John Williams score and it just feels very like jarring and out of place. They go to the first planet to get a knife that has a description of where the map is. Then they go to a second planet to get a translation of the description of where the map is from the knife. Then they go to the third planet to retrieve the map itself before they can finally go to the fourth planet, which is the one they wanted to go to. I get that it's the journey, not the destination, but this is too much journey. Turns out Rey's parents did love her. They just had to send her away to protect her from Palpatine. And then he says, they sold you to protect you, which is the worst line in the whole movie. I just love this concept. They wanted to protect her, but yes, money did change hands. Also, in hindsight, the fact that they haggled was a little gauche. And they did spend the money on space tequila. When Rey is in the desert with her friends, she sees Ochi's ship, and she's like, I've seen this ship before. That's already a funny sentiment to me in Star Wars. Like, spaceships are mass-produced, right? I don't sit in traffic and, like, see a blue Honda Civic and go, I've seen this car before. But anyway, she sees the ship, and it looks familiar, and later it's revealed that the ship belongs to Ochi, the bad guy that her grandfather sent to get Rey and the guy that killed her parents. So Ochi went to find Rey, but he found her parents, who by that point had already sold her to protect her. Rey's mom successfully hides her location by saying, and I quote, she isn't on Jakku. And I guess that didn't seem suspicious and he never followed up because for the next like 14 years, Rey stayed hidden on Jakku and it worked. So then Ochi just stabs both of Rey's parents to death with the knife that's also his map. You'd think he'd use a different knife because now his map, it's all covered with blood. So wait, did Ochi apprehend Rey's parents on Jakku? And when he did that, was Rey just within sight? Like she had just been sold, she was still in the middle of being dragged away, and Ochi somehow didn't notice, and he didn't hear her, and he didn't see her, he didn't think to just like look around a 100-foot radius? Or maybe my first line of thinking was right, and her parents just left on a ship, and then Ochi apprehended them, and it was the same model of ship because they're mass-produced. Rey, honey, your parents just also left in a blue Honda Civic. It's not the same one. I guess Leia died the way she lived. Meaning well, but ultimately hurting her son and making things more difficult for him. At one point in the movie, Rey is in the middle of having a sword fight on a windswept, precarious, slippery metal wreckage. And even then, Finn wants to yell, Rey! It's a good thing Kylo Ren wasn't actually trying to kill her in that scene, or her head would have just been chopped right off her shoulders. It was played so weird. This is another one of those reactions where I'm like, did they know what they were reacting to? I could understand Finn seeing that Rey is in mortal peril, and then kind of involuntarily yelling Rey as like an oh no kind of thing. But if you watch the way John Boyega plays it, he like throws his whole body forward and cups his hands around his mouth and goes, Rey, like he's trying to get her attention. By that point, he'd done this so many times that I wanted Rey mid-sword fight to just yell back, like, what, Finn? What? Like, what's his follow-up gonna be? If he gets her attention, is he gonna yell, look out, Rey? You're in a sword fight. When Kylo Ren is revealing Rey's family to her, she's like shaking her head and she's like, I don't want this. And I'm like, girl, same. I assume the Skywalker ending is going for that found family angle, like the family that you choose, but the family that she's choosing is 100% dead.